Okay, good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are joining us. I am Kimberly Wickert, Director of Organizational Partnerships from the University of Kentucky Human Development Institute, Retain Kentucky. My preferred pronouns are she, her, and I am a middle-aged white female with shoulder-length blonde hair, glasses, and I am wearing a black sweater with a black and white polka dot collar. I have the Retain blue and white background. Thank you for joining us for Retain Kentucky's Employment Seminar Series, COVID Fatigue and Mental Well-Being in the Workplace. A few housekeeping items before we get started. Join us if you're able on March 23rd for our next Employment Seminar Series with Anita Dowd from the Kentucky Center for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. She will be presenting on inclusive communication strategies in the workplace. For those of you that registered for the presentation today early, thank you for answering our survey questions about how COVID fatigue has impacted you and your workplace. And Brandon is our expert behind the scenes, and he is going to share a poll with you now. And we ask that you answer a couple of questions for us on that poll before we get started. So you should see that now. And Kristen is going to engage us with an activity and a link to respond anonymously during her presentation, but any questions that you have specific to content or resources can be entered in the question and answer or the chat, and we will be monitoring those throughout the presentation today. I wanted to remind you that closed captioning is enabled, but you can disable that feature individually if you would like to do so. So now let's get to our presentation. Our objectives today are to define COVID fatigue, how it manifests in the workplace, and finally learn coping mechanisms to promote wellness in the workplace. And I'm happy to have, back by popular demand, our Human Development Institute, Kristen Dahl, who is our program manager for training and research coordinator and mental health and developmental disabilities, National Training Center, and mental health subject matter expert. Kristen is a licensed professional clinical counselor and a master certified health education specialist. So thank you so much, Kristen, for joining us. And I'm going to turn it over to you now.
Thanks, Kimberly. Thanks for inviting me back, everyone. I just want to show you the link for the course materials. This has the PowerPoint and anything else I'll reference available for you. And Brandon will share that a couple of times in the chat. So it all started when the pandemic first arrived. At first, we had new ways of greeting each other, Zoom meetings, happy hours, singing while hand washing was a distraction from the unknown. And while we were afraid, it felt like we were all in this together. Teddy bear window hunts, green lights on porches to show our solidarity and empathy, chalk drawings, updates from the governor with Rockstar ASL interpreting, all gave us hope that what we were going through was something big, but that we had each other. Healthcare workers and emergency responders were recognized for the heroes that they had always been. Now we're 2 years into this. How are you feeling? Does anyone else feel stuck in an infinite loop of unprecedented times? We're tired of worrying. We just want it to be over. Some of us are angry and feel like if more people had listened to experts and followed safety protocols, the outcomes might have been different. We're divided, exhausted over information, over decisions, frustrated. We have all made sacrifices, and some of these have come at a huge cost, like not being able to visit loved ones, missing weddings, missing funerals, missing birthdays. And there are those of us who have endured losing a loved one to coronavirus, often without a chance to say goodbye. There is hope for optimism. On January 14th, 2022, the number of new COVID cases in the US was 933,326. On February the 14th, so yesterday, it was 206,317. So what is COVID fatigue? COVID fatigue is our stress response to the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID fatigue happens when we are physically and emotionally exhausted from not knowing what to expect, continually changing information, and being overwhelmed by uncertainty. So I sent out a couple of questions. I forgot to introduce myself. I skipped a slide because I had it on here, so I skipped my notes. But I'm Kristen Dahl. My preferred pronouns are she, her. I'm a 40-something Gen Xer, white female with long blonde hair. I'm wearing a green shirt and a rust-colored sweater. And I would welcome your chat, which you guys have already started. You know I love to interact with you in chat. Anytime we discuss traumatic experiences, there's the potential for you to be impacted by your own history. So please take care of yourself however you need to. And then what I didn't do in the beginning that I always do is I want to invite you to come and share this space today and to share this present moment away from the distractions for just a few minutes. So take a deep breath in and breathe out, making your exhale longer than your inhale. Lower your shoulders while you imagine a string lifting from the top of your head to the ceiling and stacking your vertebrae one on top of the other. Now take another deep breath in and look around your environment for one thing that brings you joy. It might be a plant or something you see out the window. It might be leftover chocolate from yesterday or leftover Japanese food. So take one more deep breath in. Think about that thing and how it brings you joy. And then exhale. Okay, now I'm going to jump back to where I was. And these are the two questions that I asked about a week ago. To be honest, some of your answers were pretty intense, and some of you are clearly experiencing some physical and mental responses to the ongoing pandemic. We could spend all of our time or more on this one slide. Your experiences are real and they are valid. And if you could see what I saw in your responses, you would know that you are not alone in what you are experiencing. So we're going to do these questions again on Mentimeter so that we'll have a chance to see others' responses. Your responses will be anonymous, but we will be able to see them on the screen. So I'm going to switch my share here, which is technology that will hopefully work. And you're going to see a Mentimeter slide. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. And so the question is at menti.com and the code is 32397501, which if I can find my chat, I will put in chat. And you can be on any kind of device. You just go to menti.com. and then the code 3239-7501. And we will see what you respond on the screen. So how are you or those around you experiencing COVID fatigue? Stress, depression, anxiety, worry about childcare, closing quarantine, trying to work, exhaustion, fear of the unknown, intense emotions, overeating, worried about the future, eating more, sleeping less, quicker to anger. Lots of people are responding with anxiety or exhaustion, stuck, tired of it all, worry about losing loved ones, anxiety, frustration. I'm just numb, just kind of that feeling that you don't care anymore. You know, you've done what you needed to do. Maybe others did or didn't. Disconnected, short temper, worry. We don't even know what normal is anymore. Alone. So there's a lot of isolation right now. Fear, fear. I'm going to let these scroll for about 30 more seconds. Tired of restrictions, tired of masks, trapped, constant feeling of unease. So that's really a common one too, kind of this something bad is going to happen, sense of impending doom, worry about being in the at-risk population. Me too. Jaded, sleeping patterns changed. I'm a hugger, have been unable to do this. Yeah, that's tough, isn't it? If you're a person who really needs the touch of other people, it's really hard. Tired of the craziness, sad for my kids. Haven't they lost a lot? Burnout, traumatized. Okay, so as you all can see, you have a lot of feelings about this, staffing issues. I get angry faster over little things. Okay, so I have one more question. Let's see if we can get to it. This is the issue sometimes I have with Mentimeter. See if I can get out of there. Oh man. I'm pushing the button. I really want to ask you this question. What is one word that gives you hope or comfort? So despite all of those things, which every single one is valid and everything you're going through, what is one word that gives you hope or comfort? And hopefully that came up on your screen. There we go. Prayer, faith, and this is a word cloud. So the one that's getting the most responses will be the biggest word. Faith, Jesus, God, vaccination, dinner is ready. Hopefully somebody else is making it. Sunshine, bills are paid this month. Absolutely. Spring, I am counting that too. We have sunshine today, which is so nice. Compassion, retirement. I'm going to leave this for about 30 seconds and we'll see where we end up. Care, alive, grace, flowers. Hopefully some people got flowers or yesterday or planting flowers. I bought bulbs in the winter and still haven't planted them. It's probably too late now. Somebody who knows plants should tell me, is it too late for me to plant these bulbs? Somebody tell me in chat. Science, partnership, food cost leveling. Gosh, I hope that's true. I've got time. Thanks. Knowledge. Okay, so we are going through a lot, but we have a lot to be thankful for and grateful for as well. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to my other share and pull the slides back up. It takes just a second, so keep going. and hopefully we'll switch back. So I've switched back on my screen. There might be a little lag for everybody else. And I don't know if it's going to take me back to the right slide or if I have to slide or switch through. That's what I was afraid of. Okay, here we are, experiencing COVID fatigue. And now we've seen all the answers, and most of you have named symptoms already. Here are some symptoms of COVID fatigue. You've been on high alert for an extended period of time. The public health policies, fear of getting sick, worry about your job, all contribute to this tension. So after experiencing these concerns for an extended period, you just get mentally worn out. And what you said were symptoms of COVID fatigue, the feeling angry, uncertain, lacking motivation. If there's something that we didn't name that you want to put in chat, having trouble sleeping, trouble concentrating, and then some others like slower reaction time, problems with short-term memory that maybe some of you have experienced that, impaired judgment, unable to stop racing thoughts, and withdrawing from others. And so the results of this are we can see injuries or accidents with yourself, with others in the workplace. And it can be, yeah, the brain fog, it can be a real problem. So the fatigue occurs when we do the same thing repeatedly over a long period of time. And then people begin to feel demotivated about following recommended behaviors to protect themselves and protect others from the virus. Fear is a motivator for protective behavior, but it wears off as we adapt to the threat. We lose the desire to seek out new information, and sometimes this results in feelings of complacency, alienation, and sometimes hopelessness. Wherever you are working, the pandemic has likely changed the way you work, and you probably have some strong feelings, as we have seen, about these changes. Maybe you're working longer hours. There was an article came out last week that said we're just working more. A lot of us are working from home, but with less staff and with expectations that we're just working more. We don't have time to be creative. We don't have time to come up with solutions. Reduce staff, and these emotions stress can affect your well-being, the well-being of the people you care about, your workplace, and your community. Yeah, so many people came back and don't want to do their jobs or no longer desire. How do you help motivate people? Well, yeah, that's what we're going to talk about a little bit, right? But it's really hard because is this a traumatic response? Is this a stress response? Do you feel like they're taking advantage of? I mean, there's a lot to put into consideration. Missing lunches together. Yeah, I missed that one too. So here are some work-related factors. Concerns about COVID exposure, no break between work life and home life, managing a difficult, possibly more work, lack of access to what you might need. A lot of people experiencing feelings of guilt and uncertainty at home and in the office, uncertainty about the future of the workplace and of employment. Having to learn a lot of new ways to communicate or new tools and dealing with technology difficulties, which we try to be patient with, right? Because everybody has these. And adapting to different workspaces or work schedules. No time to transition from home to work. I am reading that because I really enjoy working remotely, but that was my downtime, is the commute, when you can just either listen to songs or podcasts, a book, or just think and decompress. And you really lose that when you're working from home. So what about managing job stress? So what are some things that we can do to manage job stress? And one, as always, communication is the key. Talk about the pandemic and how it's affecting work. Have consistent routines and breaks. And this one is something that we let go of. We let go of the consistent routine because everything is changing all the time, but it's really one of the most researched things that says this is what we need to do is have a routine. Increase staffing. I know that even if it's an option, it's not easy to find workers. Tailor your messaging. Use images or infographics to make things more memorable. Continue to model and follow measures for social distancing, even when you don't want to. Promote employee assistance programs when they're available and utilize them. We know that lots of people have them. We know that people who do use them appreciate them and show a lot of improvement in their well-being, but we know most people don't use them because they're worried about looking weak or looking like they need them, which most of us do. Provide personal protective equipment. Know the most recent facts about COVID. Yes, protocols change on a daily basis or a regular basis, so stay informed about how to protect yourselves and those you care about, including those you work with. Ignoring it because of discomfort is doing a disservice to yourself and those you work with. Sharing accurate information can reduce stress and give you an opportunity to connect with others. One word about Zoom fatigue, and I put a resource in Dropbox. Zoom fatigue has become pretty common across professions, and many workplaces have begun to limit virtual gatherings, especially happy hours and fun activities, which I did a lot of in the beginning. That's really how I stayed in touch with people. But some places have stopped because exhaustion has set in. And even though we still use Zoom for business meeting, ideas around having things like no Zoom Fridays are helpful because it's hard to be on all the time. It's hard to sit still all the time. So just a note about Zoom fatigue. Leadership sets the culture. To stay connected, divide employees into smaller groups. And there's some new research coming out, and this is a wild concept for us. This one's going to be tough, but calling employees on the phone to chat. We don't do this anymore much, right? Is one of the most effective ways to determine mental wellness. Commit to calling one coworker or employee each day to check in. If it works better for you to text, do it. Send workers direct messages in Zooms or Teams. We've got Teams, someone suggested that, to tell them you're glad to see them. Some employees won't be forthcoming with their struggles. They may fear they will appear weak or unprofessional. So if you think someone is struggling, ask. Direct contact, one-on-one, is essential. Gosh, I'm 2 slides behind. How about supporting employees? And there's a lot going on in chat right now. Great ideas being shared. Fake commute, walking around the block, that is a great idea. Separating work from home life, that is a really tough one. And we have some more in here. So supporting employees, a sense of stability and hope about the future is important. According to a Gallup poll, we look to leadership for confidence. And the 4 things that followers need to have of their leaders are trust, compassion, stability, and hope. So we continue to go back to the basics of clarifying expectations, readjusting roles so that employees can use their strengths and see how they fit into the mission and purpose of the organization. If you are a supervisor or a manager, know your employee's situation, adjust your expectations if that's possible, offer coaching, and share your organization's response to COVID on a regular basis. Even if they know, that's just, again, building that routine and practicing what information that you're putting out. The boundaries of work life. So this is what we're talking about in chat, some of you guys. The boundaries of work life have changed for many workers during the pandemic. Help your team manage the conflicting demands by offering support and flexibility if that's an option. Remote work has been helpful for many, and for others may not be an option, or may it be more stressful than a work environment? Model best practices by prioritizing your own work-life boundaries so that others feel like they're allowed to prioritize them. And that's a big one. That's really big. If you see your supervisor or manager, if they prioritize their work-life boundaries, then that gives you permission to. Find opportunities to increase employee involvement in decision making. This allows for a greater sense of contribution and improves mental wellness. Even if it's a small decision, having some input or a chance to brainstorm together can reduce stress, promote perks, maybe form a wellness committee, something that gives employees a chance to have input and decision making. Increase the number of free counseling sessions offered, or waive co-payments for therapy if possible. Provide free access to mindfulness and meditation training. Many apps have work-related content now. I just noticed on Teams last week that Headspace has a few free meditations directly in Teams through Viva Insight. And it's just like you go over on the left side and you click Viva Insight, and there's some headspace meditations. There's options to check in with your own feelings. You can send praise to others as well. And that's all right there in Teams. Train your workforce to spot employees who may be struggling and initiate conversations to offer help. So there are a couple of trainings that I have attended that are pretty readily available, often for free. One is the mental health first aid, and there are several trainers in Kentucky and that are able to provide that to your workforce. And then there's also one called Question, Persuade, and Refer, and it's a suicide prevention training, but that one is also, it's really useful and would help in recognizing trauma and recognizing people who are struggling. And that one's often available for no cost as well. Look for changes in employees and coworkers who are suddenly showing up late, who are suddenly, and these are changes like you might have somebody who always leaves their camera off, who's just not comfortable with that. So I'm talking about things that are different. Leaving your camera off if you haven't before, changes in appearance, change in behavior, change in work performance. And those are definitely the times that you want to do one-on-one check-ins. Hey, I noticed that you weren't here today. I noticed that you were late. Is something going on with childcare? Do the one-on-one check-ins when you notice that someone has changed. Provide universally designed environments for flexibility and engagement. And lots of times that's just providing some tools that are easy to use and environments that are comfortable. Offer childcare and elder care benefits. Last year, we've got somebody on here who's a master trainer for QPR. It's great. So Larry, if you want to put your information in there, if people are able to contact you, that's a training I would recommend for anyone. So last year, UK offered free tutoring for children of employees. Trying to help my middle and high schooler with math was a huge stressor for me at that time. So I jumped all over that. And the very first 30-minute session with a much more competent, much cooler college student covered more ground than I had in weeks. It was a huge relief. We've got a certified trainer in youth mental health first aid. Look, we've got everything we need right here on this call. You guys are amazing. So we've got some people to contact for some of these trainings to build your workforce to be aware of trauma and aware of things that are going on with each other. Be creative with your talents and the talents of those who work with you. Most people are willing to share their gifts. They're just unsure how to be involved. As you can see, we've got people who have all kinds of gifts on this call, and you've got employees and coworkers that have all kinds of gifts to share. Creative into opportunities invite your workers' voices to generate ideas. Oh my gosh, it's 12:29. Kimberly, this is your slide, and I'm going to speed up. I was not paying any attention to the time because I've enjoyed you all so much.
This is great information, Kristen. And for anybody who needs to drop at 12:30, this will be on our Retain Kentucky Media website. So you can go back and listen to all of this in the last few minutes, but I knew we were going to have a lot of great content, and thanks everybody for your participation in the chat box as well. But I wanted to mention some employer resources, and one of those are employee assistance programs. And we often share those with employees during onboarding, but it's helpful to give them reminders because they can access mental health, legal, financial, and other services and support as part of an EAP, and that may assist with pandemic fatigue relief as well. So wanted to highlight that. The other programs that I wanted to mention include peer mentoring programs, and we're really fortunate at HDI to have an outstanding program with our leader, Jason Jones. So if you want more information about exploring peer mentoring programs in your organization, feel free to reach out to me and I can connect you with more information. We also have a great peer mentoring implement seminar series recording on our Retain Kentucky Media website that Jason did for us last year. So check that out if you want to learn more. And additional resources are available that Kristen provided in your November Implement Seminar Series presentation on creating a trauma-informed workplace, as well as University of Kentucky's Human Resource Director of Wellbeing, Dr. Erica Chambers' presentation on well-being in the workplace. That was in December. And so those are both really great resources for employers to help employees cope with COVID fatigue. And then the last link is from SAMHSA, and it shares tips to reduce stress and anxiety specific to the COVID-19 pandemic. I saw in the chat that, you know, a lot of us work in the healthcare field, and people who especially have been working with COVID-19 patients. So I think that's a great resource for you to be able to check out as well. So I will toss it back to you, Kristen, from here.
Thanks, Kimberly. So the last things I want to mention are the things that we talked about last time. Just have a trauma-informed workforce, and I've got resources for this. Realize, recognize, respond, and resist trauma. So that is SAMHSA's for keys to trauma informed. 70% of the workforce say this is the most stressful year of their lives. So widespread trauma is affecting your clients, your staff, and your families. Again, integrate training, resist re-traumatization, avoid humiliation, avoid triggering trauma, and allow people to share their stories, and that promotes healing. Trauma-informed approach, make your workplace safe, and these slides are in the resources. If you know me, you know I'm always going to promote mindfulness as sort of being a magic bullet to protect you and to be aware of what's going on around you. And then last but not least, promoting resilience, which is having relationships, having protective factors, and building core skills to protect from trauma. Thank you all so much for having me back. Kimberly, I'll flip to the last couple slides.
Yeah, thank you. We really appreciate it. And I just want to say how timely the resources that you provided and recommendations. You know, recently I had the opportunity to hear about a success story that we had at Retain, where one of our return to work coordinators was able to help a participant trade shifts. And that was an example that you gave. And so when I saw that, I was like, really happy to see that, and that to know that we are doing that in action when the participant had some social determinant challenges for childcare, and she was able to change with a coworker to be able to overcome that challenge, and that really helped with her COVID fatigue as well. So thank you for that. And just speaking to the resilience slide that you just had, I see our return to work coordinators, and I'm bragging on them because they do such a great job, that they help reduce sources of stress in the return to work plan that they develop with participants, and really load up that positive side by assisting with connections to overcome those social determinant issues like transportation, food needs, housing, and childcare that I mentioned earlier. So this is, we'll go to the next slide. This is our employee screener and our referral process. Someone can call us. They can check out our email or our website. We really want to be accessible with our QR code. So reach out if you or someone else may be eligible for our services by being a Kentucky resident, and also currently working or having worked in the last 12 months and have a non-occupational illness or injury. And with that, as I mentioned earlier, you can watch today's presentation as well as all of our Retain Implement Seminar series on our Retain Kentucky Media YouTube. So check it out. There's some great resources on there for employers. And I think that's it. We just thank you for your time. Kristen and I have enjoyed spending time with you today. And Kristen, you're fabulous as always. Thank you so much. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their day.